This is Sawyer Robertson, and you're listening to the Bearcast on SicEm365.com.
Welcome into the Bearcast on SicEm365.com, presented by WellMed Medical Management. Today, I am here with Levi Caraway, and we are going to talk about the big news of the weekend. Baylor running back Dawson Pendergrass has been lost for the season. Dave Aranda mentioned that he will have to have surgery and that this will end his 2025 season. Obviously, very unfortunate news. A guy who I feel like is very beloved by the fans and had such a nice performance last year and even his freshman year as well. Levi, what are your initial thoughts just kind of hearing the news and kind of the surprise from it?
Yeah, it was a bummer because, I mean, he's one of like the fan favorites, like you said. And once him and Bryson started to kind of click down the stretch of last season, those two were just unstoppable. Really fun to watch. And he kind of brings that lunch pail mentality to every snap. And he's so hard to bring down. So yeah, really a bummer that he's gonna be gone. I was excited to see him because he gained like about 15 pounds this offseason. So I was excited to see him kind of play off of that. But if there is one position on this team where you can afford to kind of lose a guy, I guess you could say running back would be one of those positions. And the good news is he'll get 2 years back, especially if Bryson leaves to the NFL after this year. But yeah, what were your kind of initial thoughts as well?
Well, I mean, first of all, obviously very sad for Dawson. I just think it's one of those situations where you look at it and you see his freshman year where Baylor was so bad, but he was good. Like he was fighting every single week. It was kind of a bright spot in what was a terrible 2023 season. Comes back the next year and he and Bryson, like you said, down the stretch really played awesome. His game against Oklahoma State is extremely memorable with all the big runs that he was able to capitalize on. So first of all, just sad for him, a kid that I got to know a little bit through his recruitment. So obviously this is one of those things that I just hate seeing in general. But my other reaction was, man, oh man, Bryson Washington might be looking at breaking some Baylor records this year because I do think there's depth behind him and I do think guys are going to play a lot. But, I mean, this definitely, I mean, if the freshmen don't live up to the hype or if the freshmen don't perform, I mean, you could have games where Bryson's looking at 30 carries, and then you could be looking up in some games where he's got like 4 touchdowns, and that really would not surprise me a whole lot. So, yeah, I think he could have an even bigger year than he had a year ago because of this loss. And then other than that, just gives guys opportunities, especially Kaden Knighton, who obviously, I'm very, very high on and have been since his recruitment, really.
Yeah, the coaching staff has said nothing but positive things about him. The players have said nothing but positive things about Kaden Knighton. I mean, they called him a baller over the weekend, and he was one of the guys that scored a touchdown in that scrimmage, and he played well in the spring. So I'm super excited to kind of watch him play. But one of the biggest questions is he's not going to have any time to ease into things. I mean, Auburn's probably going to be the best D-line they're going to face all season. Then he got SMU in week 2. So there's not going to be a learning curve for him. He's going to be thrown into the fire immediately, and it'll be interesting to see if he's prepared for that.
Yeah, I think a big thing with him is that he was able to enroll early. And so him getting the spring was huge, I think, for him to develop his body and just get himself to a point where he's feeling comfortable in the offense. And, a lot of people who, maybe are more casual readers of the website don't remember that Bryson and Dawson sat out a lot of the spring and did not do a lot of the scrimmages, no point, right? Because you wanted to avoid this type of situation that we just found out, that Dawson had. But it gave Kaden opportunities with the first string. And it gave him opportunities to really show what he could do. In both scrimmages in the spring, he broke off huge runs, which has been kind of a common occurrence for him in these scrimmages, is that it seems like every single one he has one big run, like a 50-plus yard touchdown type thing. And you can say, oh, is that a bad sign for the defense? But I think it speaks much more about not only the offensive line, but Kaden Knighton's ability to finish those long runs. He has really good finishing speed, which I think is very important. It's not something they really have in this room, and it's something that he definitely brings to the table, as well as his pass-catching ability. I think there's something there that maybe was lacking a year ago. Dawson and Bryson are good pass catchers, but I do think Kaden brings a different level to it as more of a, can actually look like a receiver as opposed to just making your typical running back completions and receptions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's an area where this offense can really go another level, is especially with the running backs kind of catching passes out of the backfield. My initial thoughts when I saw the injury to Dawson, kind of the two things that went through my mind were, one, how is Bryson's health going to play long term if he's going to have a bigger load on his shoulders? And I think, like, initially, just kind of in a vacuum, you can be like, well, Kaden Knighton can replace Dawson's production. But then it's like, is Bryson, what percentage of snaps is he going to have to play? And then who's going to be that third guy? Because I'm sure somebody's going to have to be relied upon. And I'm sure you have an answer for that, whether that be Joseph Dods or Michael Turner. One of those guys is going to have to step up quicker than expected.
Definitely. I think the leader in the clubhouse right now is Joseph Dods, the redshirt freshman. He missed all last season with an injury, was a really good prospect in the 2024 class. I think people forget about that, but he was a 4-star prospect. I think by on 3, I had him right around that 4-star range. I believe I had him as like a 90, which perspective-wise, I think I had Kaden Knighton at like 94. Which is an outlier. I had Bryson Washington at 91. So if that gives you kind of an idea of kind of where I see him fitting in the pecking order there. Really good player, performed really well. Sadly, he gets to Baylor, gets hurt immediately, which is not fun to see. It's something where you got to battle back from it. But, I mean, his final year at Tidehaven, he led them all the way to a state championship matchup. He ran for 2,500 yards and 40 touchdowns his senior year. So a really good player, a guy who he's not the fastest. Like, he doesn't have great breakaway speed, but he's got good initial bursts, kind of like Dawson Pendergrass does, where he's got good bursts through the hole. Breakaway speed, not quite there, but a good ability to break tackles and kind of bigger than break tackles. I think it's more keeping your momentum even when you have arm tackles or even when you face a little bit of contact. He's very good at that. Similar to Dawson. I don't know if he has quite the balance that Dawson does. That's kind of his, in my eyes, best attribute. I don't know that he has that, but he's got a little more wiggle to his game, and hopefully he can really live up to what they've been saying about him. But I definitely think he's going to need to take over a physicality role for this running game. And I don't know if he's there yet, but I do think he's the favorite to get that job as the third running back right now.
And then what are kind of your thoughts on Michael Turner? And do you expect any one of those guys to potentially get some snaps as soon as the Auburn game?
Man, I think Joseph Dods is probably going to have to get snaps in the Auburn game, but I think it will be minimal. Is kind of how I would read into that. I do think in the Samford game, I think there's a chance that you don't even play Bryson, or maybe play him very little, and maybe even Kaden as well. And you let Joseph Dods and Michael Turner really kind of get going, get a feel for the season. So I think Dods will play in the Auburn game. I don't think Michael Turner will. I think it's just too early. He obviously got hurt during his senior year, has been battling back from that. And so it's just a matter of, is he ready as a true freshman coming off of a season-ending injury? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of that at the early part of the season. I do think as the season progresses, though, I think you could make the case that maybe Michael Turner's talent kind of flashes, and maybe he ends up passing Joseph Dods towards that home stretch, right? As he gets further removed from his injury. He's a very good player. He brings a lot more in the pass game, kind of like Kaden Knighton does. He's a good receiver in that regard. I think he's got a little more juice as well as far as finishing runs, the speed. He's a very physical runner as well. And I would say of all the running backs they have, when you turn on the film, I think he's the smoothest, smoothest transitions with his cuts, smoothest transitions with his agility and making guys miss in the open field. I think he's probably the best at that. But again, you're coming back from an injury. So, how much of a toll has that taken on you, especially in your first year at Baylor?
Yeah, in a pinch, if they really need some other guy to kind of emerge as a depth piece, do you expect them maybe to move a wide receiver in the backfield? Or I guess Spav could get pretty creative and maybe put a guy like Ashton Hawkins back there from time to time.
It's a good question. I think that they might be in a situation where you might even put not even someone back there to run the ball, but maybe like a Kelsey Johnson in the backfield for pass protection. I think that could be intriguing, and obviously he can leak out to and be a receiver in that regard. I think they're going to run their running backs. I would be surprised if they put any guys in the backfield. The only ones who have the experience really doing that are Ja'Cory Watson and Demetrius Brisbane, who's currently on the defensive side. Those two guys played quarterback in high school. So they have more of a history with that. I know people want to point to Antoine Goodley and Corey Coleman, but those were two very different situations than the guys that Baylor has on their roster. So I would be a little surprised by that. I think more so putting a guy back there for pass protection and not forcing Bryson Washington to take a bunch of those hits, trying to protect Sawyer Robertson. I think that could make a lot of sense and could be an interesting wrinkle that Jake Spavital works with. Or you put a receiver back there and just kind of flex them out from the running back position and still run your 5 wide receiver sets that Spav has been kind of famous for.
Yeah, well, let's hope as they kind of in fall camp with these next couple of scrimmages that Bryson and Kaden just stay in bubble wrap, keep those guys healthy, and hopefully they'll be at full strength going into the season opener in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. So bad news on Dawson. Not a great situation at all, but I think Levi and I are both pretty optimistic that they can survive this, and that two-headed monster of Bryson Washington and Kaden Knighton should be enough to propel this running game to a very high level of production, just like they were at a year ago. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been the Bearcast on Sikkim365.com.
Join Sikkim 365 Premium on a $1 for 1 month trial to read our experts' notes and insights. Know about high school commits, off-season transfers, coaching staff changes, and so much more before the rest. Also, download the Sikkim 365 app on your iPhone today to get instant notifications of breaking news, read up on the latest inside info, easily interact with other Baylor fans on our forums, and get alerts for anything published by your favorite staff members.